Hello folks, Jason Chrisman, JC's Bees, your Central Ohio beekeeper. Today we're going to continue talking about plastic foundation. I'm going to emphasize a little bit more on the drone foundation. And this is what it looks like. This is the plastic drone foundation. Give you a closer look here at it. This is what it looks like when they're drawing it out. So I want to tell you a common problem I see when people are not providing the drone foundation and they're only using the plastic worker foundation. There's a problem I'm seeing, and you may not realize it. I'm going to point it out to you today. But before we go on any further, I'd like to encourage you, whether it's your first time here or your second, please hit the subscribe button and make sure you click on that little bell so you can be notified when I release new videos. So now, let's see if I can teach you something about drone comb. Let's go. Let's begin by looking at a drone. And here I have circled a couple of the drones. Now if you compare them with the bees around them, those are worker bees. And you can see that there's quite a difference in size from a worker to a drone. Look how much bigger around the drones are than the worker bees. Now there is one worker bee that I see here that sticks out a little bit and looks a little bit longer than most of them. And it's this one right here. And I think the reason she's a little bit longer, or appears to be longer in this photo anyway, is she's full of nectar. She needs to regurgitate that, and then she should mimic the size of the other worker bees. So in this picture here, what you can see is the two different styles of brood. Right here would be worker brood. You can see how the capping on it is almost flat. As we're here, we have drone brood, and you can see that the tops of the caps are rounded. They protrude out away from the comb, as where the worker cell cappings are pretty much flat with the comb. So that's how you tell workers from drone brood. Let's start out by discussing plastic foundation with worker cells. This foundation does not allow colonies to build the correct size drone comb. Now if you look at this frame, this is a plastic frame with plastic foundation. It's all one piece. When you look at the brood pattern, it almost looks spotty, like the queen missed laying in some cells. But at a closer look, you can see that the open cells are extended up above the worker cells. Why is this? Well, the reason is they've only got plastic foundation. They've only got worker cells to work with, and they need to raise some drones. So they're using worker cells to raise drones. Now these cells aren't really going to provide a big enough area to raise true drones. These drones will come out a lot smaller than the average drone that we're used to. So if you've ever noticed this in a colony, that would be why. Here's another frame. This is, as you can see, plastic foundation, and you're going to notice a scattered brood pattern. But if you look at that scattered brood pattern, those cells all stick up higher than the rest. Well, the reason is those are all drones. They're trying to make do with what they have. Now, when it comes to wax foundation, I've noticed that bees are able to manipulate it a little bit more. This is a piece of wax foundation. You can see the sheet of foundation no longer goes to the bottom of the frame. The bees have chewed all that wax away. And over in the corner, all of those cells, you're going to notice what looks like 22 shells sticking out, or bullets. Those are drones. They stick up really high. That whole corner is drone cells. And that's because the bees have probably chewed away the foundation underneath of it and manipulated it so that they could raise some drones. Now the cap cells right beside that area, those would all be workers. Same within the middle of that frame. So you can see how easy it would be for the bees to chew away the wax, make that section what they want. On plastic foundation, they're not able to do that. So they've got to manipulate the cells all over the frame in different places. Here's some more drone cells down in the corner of a piece of wax foundation. So, I don't know, I find it interesting that you give them wax, they're able to raise what they want, whether the cells are worker or drone. If you give them plastic and they want to raise drones, they're just scattered amongst your brood frame, with workers. So this raises a flag to me if you're using plastic foundation, and hey, I'm guilty of it. Here's the concerns. If we're using plastic foundation and that's all we're giving our bees, and they're using those cells to raise drones, and those drones come out smaller than what they actually should be, why do we have drones in our colonies? It's for mating. They go out, they congregate, and they mate virgin queens. So they are needed during the growing season. That's all they do. They do not bring in nectar, they do not gather pollen, they do not feed our bees, they do not feed the queen. Their only purpose is mating. So now let's think, if we're producing drones that aren't actually as big as what they should be, how is that affecting the mating cycle? Is the queen actually getting what she needs to produce a quality offspring? Or is she going to produce some kind of funky bee, or have some kind of funky spotty brood pattern? Or the possibilities are endless. Is there a chance that those smaller drones are actually mating virgins? And if so, how are those virgins affected when they're mated? Do they lay quality patterns? Are they producing worker bees that are of quality? Or are they just a poor bee all the way around? Kind of interesting, huh? So what we have here is a plastic drone frame. Foundation and frame all one piece. It's all laid out in drone cells. Now the advantage to this frame is, like I mentioned in part 1 of this series, bees can actually store more nectar in drone comb. The holes are bigger, the cells are bigger. The other important thing about drone comb is that when the bees decide to raise a bunch of drones, drones are also the go-to for varroa mites, a big pest that we beekeepers battle. And that's because drones take a little bit longer to emerge, so it gives the varroa mite more time to raise more mites in the cell with the bee. So they prefer drones. As a pest management tool with this frame, after the foundation has been drawn out and laid out into drones, and they've got it all capped off, you take this frame out, you stick another frame, whether it be drone comb or not, in its place, and you take this frame in and you stick it in a trash bag and stick it in your freezer for 2 days. And in 2 days, take it out, let it warm up, go back out to your colony, remove the frame you stuck in, and put this one back in. What will happen is the bees will clean up all of that dead brood, and you've just stopped a huge varroa mite infestation in your colony. All because you stuck this in the freezer. The varroa mites died. Sure, the drones also die. But the advantage is the mites dying. And really ask yourself, what benefit was the drones doing for you anyway? They eat the bees' food. They do not forage. Their only sole purpose is to mate, go on mating flights. And after they mate, they don't make it home. They die on the way back. That's drone comb and drone foundation. A really great pest management tool if you're looking to use plastic foundation. And I strongly encourage, if you're going to use plastic foundation, like I've said I favor, buy you a few of these. Add them into the mix with your plastic foundation. Give the bees a choice. It's surely going to make a difference on the genetic pool when they're out there breeding and they're mating, and the queens are mating with these small, skinny drones. That's surely going to play a toll on our bees, folks. So we want to keep drones normal size. They're that size for a reason. When you go breeding smaller drones, I think we're asking for problems. Funny, we're talking about drones, and right here comes a drone up out of the box. So this is a drone. Take him out in the sun so you can see him a little better. That is a drone, folks. Big eyes. And they got them big eyes so they can see where the queen is. They mate in the air. Interesting fact about drones, they don't have a stinger. They got great big wings, and if you got a trained ear and have worked bees for a while, you can actually hear the difference between a drone and a worker bee when they come back to the colony. So what happens is these drones, they fly out to a congregating area where they all hang out, and they wait for the queens, the virgin queens, to show up. 25 drones will mate with the queen, and the queen will store that sperm in her spermatheca, and she'll have enough sperm to mate up to 3 to 5 years if she's productive that long. The drone. And the poor little guy dies right after he mates. It's his only purpose. Keep the queens fertile. Bees are getting a little pissy. I hate to say it, but I think that means we're entering a dearth. And that's when there is hardly any nectar for them. The clover in the yard's pretty much all but disappeared. I did notice the big tall thing there. That's Joe Pye. That's about to bloom, but it's not really enough Joe Pye around to support a few bee colonies. So it's not going to be enough to keep them from being a little grumpy, if you will. So we're going to have to start supplementing, providing some syrup for our bees, and I'm also planting some buckwheat, which I'll be sharing a video on that soon. I'm going to keep the frame videos going for a little while. I hope they're enjoyable for everybody and educational. Takes a lot to put those together, finding out. So I think I'm probably going to skip a couple weeks and do something else, but there will be some more frame videos coming, so stay tuned for that. Also, I'd like to invite anybody that's interested over to my new beekeeping community and check that out. Or I'm offering a discount of 50% off for 1 month, and there's a discount code down below. I have a live stream scheduled over there. I think it's August 15th. It'll be my first live stream over there, so that ought to be pretty exciting. Going to do them at least monthly. The goal is to be able to be out in the bee yard eventually and do live streams from the bee yard. But right now, the community app that I'm using, which is Circle, is what I built this community on. And they're not currently supporting Androids, so I'm not able to be out in the bee yard because I have an Android phone. So once Android becomes available for live streaming on the Circle app, then I'll be going from the bee yard. So live streams from until then will be in my little office, and it'll be a one-on-one. We'll talk about current events, what we're doing for our bees, and things we could be doing, things we should be doing. Like, it's August now. We need to really think about treating for varroa mites and knocking them levels down. Before long, it's going to be fall, and if you start treating then, you're not going to have enough time for your colonies to raise healthy bees. So I'm going to link some videos to the end of this video that are very helpful for controlling mites. I'm going to show how to do an alcohol wash. I'm going to share how to use oxalic acid, and any other of my mite treatment videos that I can find, I'll link to the end of this one. So take care, folks. Get your bees healthy for winter, and if you can avoid it, don't walk around your bees without a veil this time of year.